very, very sincere thank you to all of the staff from Caradog who've joined us to lead today, but also to everyone who's attending. We are well aware of how busy schools are at the moment and the rate of announcements that come and seem to change our working patterns from 1 hour to the next. Basically, just to give a little bit of background context, these webinars have come about because there's a feeling that no one has all of the answers. This is new territory for all of us, but together everyone's got some of the answer. And this is just an opportunity to share some practice and hear some approaches and ask questions about it. So it really is designed to be for schools and by schools, sharing what's worked, sharing what we've learned, and an opportunity to ask any questions really at the end. So I am going to hand over in a moment to Nairi and a wonderful team at Caradog. And you'll be relieved to know you don't have to listen to me talk for very long. And when they've shared some of their work and their learning with you, we'll have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. So please do feel free to use the chat bar if something occurs to you and you don't want to forget it. But after they've presented, we'll invite people to put their hands up and speak as well if they want to, if there's any observations or questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I will mute myself and be quiet, much to everyone's relief now, and I will hand straight over to you.
Thank you, Louise. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today. As Louise said, we're Caradog Primary School and I'm Nairi Long, the head teacher there. So today we've been asked to share with you our blended learning journey and in particular the barriers that we faced along the way, really, in terms of overcoming them then to sort of achieve success. So to give you just a little bit of context, first of all, about our school, we're Caradog Primary School in the town centre of Aberdeen. We've got sort of a 1-form entry school with a complex needs class as well, and we're just under 50% free school meals. I'm super fortunate really to have such a talented team of staff who, you know, like me, they get excited by school improvement rather than digging their heels in, and they certainly keep me on my toes as well. Since my appointment in 2019, I've continually aspired really to make sure that everybody's on board with that sort of school improvement journey and that it's a team effort, and I'm sure that that will come across today. So the staff involved today, we've got my deputy Rhian, SLT members then, Nia and Sally, and 2 teachers as well, Kelly and Katie. I did desperately try to get some TAs on board, but you know, no amount of bribery or wine could convince them to, unfortunately. So I'm sure the girls will do a fabulous job. We certainly don't claim to have it all sussed, and as Louise said, you know, it's just sort of parts of our journey. If we can share that with you and there's anything you can take from it, then we'll be thrilled. You know, we don't have it all sussed, but what we do believe in is what we're doing and our why behind it. So taking us back really to March 2020, when of course the first barrier that we faced was, you know, adapting to this dramatic change with announcements, briefings, operational guidance, terminology that was alien to us, you know, blended learning, distance learning and everything else. Lockdown, breakdowns, when, you know, deep down, I think we were all just thinking, what on earth is going on? And, you know, I, for one, was certainly thinking MPQH didn't prepare me for this. But at that point, really, and, you know, throughout for myself and then from my staff, well-being has been a huge focus for us. So that's where we started, really, well-being of our staff, of our pupils, of our sort of families, and making sure that everybody was supported through this change. And then from there, obviously, we had to sort of, you know, move on with things other than just well-being and ensure that that sort of learning continued as well. We started small. We remembered what was important to us as a school, and we tried to transfer that then to a virtual platform rather than sort of doing anything different. I'm going to hand you over now to Nia, Sally and Katie, and they're going to take you through the first part of the presentation. So thank you, ladies.
Hi, thanks, Nairi. So I'm Nia. I am a leader of learning at Key Stage 2, leader of literacy, and I've got year 6 in the juniors. So just to sort of echo what the ladies have said, this is not about preaching to everybody. You know, all schools are different. We've definitely not got all the answers. We're far from perfect. And I think it's really important to say that it's about sort of constantly refining as we go along. We're changing things all of the time and about having that communication with staff. I'm just going to click on, probably going to hit my first barrier here where we can't load up. Pop the... Are we good to go?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, again, every school is different. The main platforms that we are using at Caradog are Hub Classroom and Dojo Classroom. One of the first barriers I think that we'll talk about is consistency, really, and sort of transferring our teaching and learning that's going on at Caradog to our online classrooms. So here, I think to start off, we really needed to sort of build that communication with staff. You know, we've had numerous meetings where we've all been very honest with each other and, you know, tried to pass on our ideas and share our thoughts about what's working and what's not working. We have, at the moment, we are delivering 3 daily tasks via our hub and our class dojo. One being maths, English is the second. And the third is one other area of learning. Within that third area of learning, then we include Wellbeing Wednesday and Feel Good Friday. So we've all agreed, you know, that it's really important to transfer our strengths in the classroom to our online classrooms. We're sort of promoting modelling, my turn, your turn, in the same way we would be doing if we were in the classroom every day, and sort of using our everyday practice there in our online classrooms. We've agreed, I'll click to the next. Am I on? I'm not on the slideshow. Sorry, guys. So there's just so much really going on together here collectively at Caradog. We are now delivering live check-ins weekly. We're using many different resources like audios for teaching tips. We've got hooks through our Read Write Inc and our Talk for Writing. We continue to use the toolkits for learning. I mean, we've got story times, e-stories, links to different websites to reinforce the learning, all sorts of things going on. So on this slide here, I have included a couple of videos that I thought I'd play for you guys. Personally, I love these audio clips because they're a way of sort of communicating with the children without you can do sort of little snippets of speaking to help them out, give them teaching tips along the way. And here is an example of Miss Fleet, our Year 2 teacher, modelling for Talk for Writing. Check, we got sound here.
Okay, here's our introduction. Okay, so we're going to follow the pictures now and we're going to create some actions. So here we go. Have you ever heard a rumbling in your freezer? Question mark. Remember, we use our ear for the shape of the question mark. Here we go for the next sentence. Have you ever felt the frosty, cool air in your kitchen? Question mark. Next sentence. Here we go for the next sentence. Have you...
I won't play the whole thing through, but obviously this is an example of where we are transferring the idea of modelling and our sort of face-to-face teaching in the classroom to our online classrooms. Another example here, we've got Miss Shellard, who's gone over and above because I think she's actually using her own daughter to model and teach her.
Hi boys and girls, Miss Shellard here. Today I'm going to teach you how to complete a block graph. So as you can see, I've got a little helper here today. This is my little girl Ariana, and she's going to help me to show you how to complete a block graph, which is your maths work that I've set for you today. Okay, now Ariana is going to be doing this worksheet, which is a zoo block graph, okay, which is very similar to the one that I have set you today.
I'm going to stop that there. There's a face of an angel there with Ariana. I know that Miss Shellard had, you know, some fantastic feedback from parents there because they found it really, really helpful where they could actually see Rian teaching her daughter and sort of seeing how it's done. And then they could, you know, use that as a model then and sort of do it at home with their children. There's some examples here of audios that we've been using along the way.
Okay, here's our Introduction.
Good morning, pandas. So I've made this video today just to help you with the maths activity that I've set for you.
You would make your thoughtful
So we're going
guess
to be
by
looking at
first
tally marks.
thinking, right, well, what type of angle is this? Well, I can look
Technology
at it and I
mayhem.
can see this angle is smaller than a right angle. It's smaller than 90 degrees. I know it's an acute angle. So my estimate must be less than 90. If I guess above 90, my estimation is not a sensible estimate and the answer will be wrong. Do I have to get it spot on for
Okay, guys, so that's just, it's a little bit of a snippet and a snapshot of some of the approaches and sort of teaching resources that we are using along the way. I think I mentioned the success criteria there. You can see the toolkit for perfect poetry. This is exactly what we would be doing if we were teaching in the classroom. We'd give them a model. We might do a shade right like the one at the top of the screen, and then they would do their own poetry writing. So it's just basically trying to sort of push that consistent approach that we would be using in the classroom every day. There's lots of other things going on, so I am going to pass on now to my colleagues Sal and Katie to talk a little bit more about how things have evolved.
Morning, so I'm Sally, I'm the Foundation Phase Leader. I'm going to talk to you about how Caradog learning maps have evolved. So if you'll put the next slide on this.
Sorry, Miss Rossiter.
Hi, Michelle. So how have our Caradog learning maps evolved? So as many of you, we started way back in March last year, almost a year ago now, running around frantically, all trying to photocopy, laminate, raid cupboards, everything, trying to put our learning packs together for our children to take home on the Friday, hoping that they would sort of last them till the Easter holidays. I remember opening the door on Monday morning and having a phone call to say the learning packs were fantastic. One of the children had completed it over the weekend, and could they come in and pick up another learning pack? And that was just 2 days later. So obviously they were a sort of quick fix initially, and then we met as a staff then to discuss how we were going to take our home learning forward. We obviously we wanted to be at the forefront of everything that we did. So we discussed how then we would plan for our children, what we would include, how it would look, how often we would share it with them. And again, there wasn't a right or a wrong way. It was just find a way and go with it, which is what we did. So our first learning map, as you can see, the one with the green border, that we created that. So that was our first learning map. We posted it on a Monday. It included language, maths, theme, activities, Welsh that was set by Mrs. Strong. She'll talk about that later with you. We also included ideas for read, write, ink, spelling, big maths, and we had a section for weekly life skills as well, so that we could carry on working on well-being with the children and just give them some activities that they could do at home to help them, for example, with a nursery, putting on their coat, using a knife and fork, tying up their shoelaces, cleaning their teeth, washing. So just little sort of activities that they could do at home to carry on with their well-being and personal and social skills. So activities were carried out initially through the week and shared with teachers. In addition to this, the map, staff were also putting on class stories, school stories, links to games, videos, scavenger hunts, go on at 10:30, see Joe Wicks, go on to the Dow Disco. And we were it was a case of bombarding parents. It was new to us. We were just trying to, do the best that we could, share as many different things as we could with them. But we realised that, parents probably didn't know at some points whether they were coming or going. This did settle down, and obviously, we moved forward then and, just took note of it, that, it was something that we had to sort of look at in the future, that we weren't bombarding parents, and that the children just sort of focused on the activities that we were setting them each week. And we ran with this way then until the summer, until we returned back to school. Then, of course, we came to the autumn term, where we were all hoping that things would run smoothly. We were all in our bubbles trying to keep everybody safe, but of course this wasn't the case. And we had our first positive case in Caradog in one of the upper Key Stage 2 classes. And of course they had to self-isolate and we had to move to blended learning again. So we met as a staff to discuss the way forward with regards to our blended learning and how we could improve it from how we had run it in the summer term. And we decided as a school that they needed to have daily activities set for them, similar to the way that we organised the school day, just to make it more consistent for them, and to obviously help with the home learning and just sort of with their well-being, so that it was very similar to how their school day would run. So this was the start of version 2 of our learning map. And we trialled it very quickly with Key Stage 2 as they all started dropping like flies, and all the Key Stage 2 classes were closing as cases spread, and also some of the foundation phase classes as well. And then before Christmas, of course, we had an inkling that schools wouldn't be returning in January when we returned, and that the likelihood is that we would be going to blended learning. So cut to January, it was the case. We did move to blended learning for all our children, and we started using version 2 of our learning map. So now we post a map every day. So 5 days a week, there's a learning map that goes up. It includes an English activity, a maths activity, and one other activity, as Nia said earlier on. So in addition to that, obviously we'd a click school and we'd a read writing school. So with the Key Stage 2, they decided they were going to include those activities within each of their language and their math subjects. Foundation phase decided, we were very brave, that we were going to do read writing sessions in addition to the language. It quickly became obvious from our engagement trackers that parents were choosing to either do the read writing activity or the language activity with the children. So again, we've tweaked our map, and now we do 2 language activities based around our theme and 3 read writing. So it's constantly changing. We're constantly changing and updating the map as we go along with feedback, pupil voice, and we constantly sort of tweaking it. So this is currently where we are with our learning map. It's better suited for us as a school. It isn't necessarily the right way for every school, but it works for us at the moment. Again, as I say, we constantly tweaking it. And of course, to accompany the learning maps, we're also providing a range of engaging resources, as Nia spoke about, including videos, links to websites, audio, stories, PowerPoints, lots more, all to help the children with the activities that we set them on a daily basis. So I'm going to pass to Katie now, and she'll tell you a little more about this.
Yeah, thanks, Sal. So I'm Katie and I'm a teacher here in Caradog. So moving forward in our blended learning approach, we knew we needed to transfer our high quality teaching and learning from the classroom to our online platforms. So one of the ways that we were doing this was to share videos with pupils and parents, which we didn't start doing in the first lockdown. This is something that is new to us that we started in January. So we've been using Loom as a teaching tool that allows us to screen record as well as record ourselves live, and this is being used then consistently throughout foundation phase and Key Stage 2. So we've been using the videos as instructions, as introductions to lessons and activities, hooks for learning, story times. I don't know if you want to play a couple of seconds, Nate, to give an example.
I'm scared to press the play button after the last.
Board our tigers. So I'm going to talk you through your learning task 1 today, which is Thursday. And our learning task today is going to be looking at compound words, and we are going to play the alien word game. Okay, so keeping in line with our model text, Amazing Aliens, we are going to be coming up with our own alien vocabulary and using our knowledge of compound words to help us. So I'll go through the instructions and let you know anything that you need to be doing today. So let's have a little read, shall we? Vegetarian is a real word, but Kandarian
Yeah, I'm sure you're all the same and you cringe at the sound of your own voice. But as you can see, you know, I was just talking through, I had my screen up, so that was the activity they were given, and then it was just me sort of talking through it. So for us, it's been a really effective way of ensuring that we are using the same modelling and scaffolding strategies that we would in the classroom. So it's literally just transferring our teacher input to our online platforms. I know from talking from all of staff that it's really helped in increasing engagement because it's visual for the learners. It allows us to give clear instructions and expectations, allows us to model, scaffold just as we would in our classroom environment. From feedback as well from pupils and parents, we know that these videos as well are helping reminding the children that we are still here, teaching them and supporting them. And I think often having our physical presence there on the screen, modelling, explaining and questioning, reminds them of the high expectations that we still expect, just as we would in school. And it gives them more of a sense of normal classroom learning as well, rather than just having our activities that are typed up on the screen. So for us, it's definitely been really effective in supporting our consistent, high quality teaching and learning, just as they would be experiencing when they're in the class. So we've also used Loom and our videos as tutorials for parents, so supporting them at home when they are supporting their own children with our blended learning approach. So I'm going to hand back to Nia now, who's going to talk a bit more about how we are using Loom and how we're using our videos as tutorials.
Room on the
Chaos. Okay, it's very apt that I'm covering this barrier with digital competency, because so far all of the audios have been randomly playing and I've tried to stop them. So I'm only human, so I'm trying my best, guys, okay? When we're talking about digital competency, I mean, you know, I think the title says it all. It is easy when you know how. We're talking about the digital competency of our staff. You know, first of all, we've had to train our staff up, and Rhian has delivered tutorials for support staff with using Dojo. She'll talk a little more about that later on. And then our pupils, of course, and then our parents, like Katie has said, you know, delivering tutorials so that they can help and guide the children at home. I think it's important to say that when we came back to school with the children so when did we go off? When we returned to school and I spent some time with the children, I sort of coached with year 6 and, you know, spent a lot of time with them so that using Hub sort of came second nature to them. And I know that the other Key Stage 2 classes now, they've done the same. And it's kind of a case of, you know, it's with everything is practice makes perfect, isn't it? You know, so moving on there, we got to the point then, you know, where I suppose everybody was in the same boat with parents messaging, you know, how do we do this? I think, you know, I'm sure you've all seen the memes online, and some of these, you know, really you can relate to. We, you know, constantly being messaged by pupils and parents. So we sort of, as a staff, got together, and the star of our show, Mr. Davis, I think he's online as well here listening in. Is here. So I was just going to play one of the tutorials. This was part of, there was 3 parts to it. So I think this was the first one where we uploaded this then onto our school forums to help the parents.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our first Microsoft Teams video tutorial. So before we start, you are going to need your Hub login and your password. Don't panic if you don't have it or you've forgotten it. Your class teacher can help you with this, so drop them a message. So we are all working really hard at home and learning how to work differently. We are constantly trying to think of ways to make your home learning easier, and now we would like to start to provide more opportunities to meet through live sessions. So in order to do this,
as you can see, Mr. Davis is an absolute natural there on video. So to sort of return to our digital competency with staff, I mean, in the beginning, I think it took us a few weeks to even, you know, for our staff to be able to use Teams. I'm sure you can all relate, you know, where everybody's got their microphone off. You know, I've had problems sharing here today still. So it's a case of, you know, being lifelong learners together. I think all of us, we're all in the same boat there. With regards then to the pupils, you know, personally, I can say that the ICT skills that my children have developed along the way now in the last few months, you know, are fantastic. They're emailing every day through Hub. They are sending attachments. They're editing and working on documents and then sending them back. Even the little ones are uploading photographs and videos from their iPads using the dojo. So, you know, I think it's a case of this is really shaping our future classrooms of Caradog. This is not something that we would sort of stop. We'll push on forward with it and we'll sort of continue. You know, why wouldn't we carry on using these learning approaches when, you know, they're so successful and they're promoting ICT skills? So, yeah. Moving on, I think one of the other barriers here that we wanted to talk about is, of course, differentiation. To echo what Sal said, you know, in the beginning, it was very much with the learning maps and, you know, we were all focusing upon well-being and it was very much one size sort of fits all. Whereas, you know, later down the line now, we're really pushing to make sure that, you know, the teaching and learning is of the same standard and is consistent with our classroom learning at Caradog. So in order to do that, we've got to cater to the needs of all of our pupils. Really quickly, because I am wary of time, we've got a couple of examples on here of where there are videos being used, so they will be differentiated through Click. We're using PowerPoints where each Click group are given audio and video tips for where they're at in their stage of learning. We're using the portfolio to upload individual and group videos or activities there, so those are differentiated. And of course, you know, differentiation by outcome, you know, that's a biggie as well. This is an example here of a task that one of the other areas of learning that has been used. When we had our Eston inspection back in October 2019, which was only a couple of months before we went straight into COVID, obviously. One of the recommendations was for our older learners, well, starting with our older learners, to identify the next steps in their learning. We'd been using, you know, our children were very independent, and we'd been using the chili peppers to sort of gauge where they were using their pupil choice and picking and differentiating in that way. And sort of the feedback we'd had was they'd like us to sort of move forward where the children can identify their own steps in learning. So we've been trialling the sort of ABC choice option here, so pupil voice, your choice, where the children choose the activity that they are going to carry out. You can see again, you know, just to reiterate, there's modelling here and examples of what a choice A, B or C might look like. So on the side, my doorbell is ringing now. Everything is really going to plan today. That's the Amazon delivery, everyone, okay? My son is not collecting it as he's yeah, so this is just an example really of differentiation. It's slightly different to what I would be doing in the classroom or what we might be doing. There's another example on the earlier slide of Katie's, because here it is giving the children, it's following feedback from a survey, and it's giving them an option of the subject to choose, because obviously all of them are unique. They're all different. Some of them are saying, oh, we're loving the numeracy. Can we do more work on angles, was the feedback I'd had that week. Others are saying, oh, you know, we want to do more art. Can we do more? So I'd sort of given them an example here where they can choose and pick. Whereas in school, we may just give an ABC option, which is within the one subject of English or maths, and then they'd identify their next steps there. So I'm going to pass to Sally so that she can talk a little bit more about the differentiation that's going on down in the foundation phase as well. So there you go, Sal.
Thank you. Yeah. Right, so differentiation in foundation phase is obviously slightly different to in the juniors. We differentiate in a variety of ways depending on the activity that has been set. So each week we ensure we use a variety of we upload a variety of individual and group portfolio differentiated activities. On Read Write Ink days, we make a number of differentiated teaching videos then and upload them to the child's individual portfolios depending on the Read Write Ink group that they're in, the sounds that they're on. And then it's lovely then to actually see the videos of the children smiling, laughing, using our videos at home, helping them to learn these sounds, because it follows the same structure that we use in the classroom. And then any interactive learning activities that we upload are also differentiated depending on what they're working on in language, what they're working on in their maths activities. Same for Click, we upload differentiated PowerPoint videos depending on what Click groups that they're in. In class, we set differentiated missions for the children to carry out, but they are in our areas, they're part of our enhanced provision. So obviously that's very difficult then to transfer for home learning. So where we do practical activities, it's very much differentiation by outcome. I don't think parents would like that I ask them to set up a sand area, a water area, a writing corner, a creative area, and then set them challenges for each of these areas. So as I say, any practical activity that we set, it's differentiated by outcome. In addition to the teachers differentiating activities, and this goes right across the school, our TAs also plan and prepare and upload differentiated activities for pupils as part of their intervention. And Rian will talk about this in more detail a little bit later on. I'm conscious of time now, so I'm going to pass over to Rian now to talk about engagement and interventions with you.
Thanks, Sal. Hi everyone, I'm Rian. I'm the Deputy Head and the ALNGO at Caradog. So I'm going to talk to you about numerous things for my sessions. The first thing that I'm going to start with is engagement. And as Nairi said, back in March, it was chaos. Nobody knew how long this was going to go on for. And our ultimate aim and goal in March was to keep the children safe, knowing the parents were keeping the children safe and the children's well-being was vital to us all. In March, we had roughly about 26 to 28% engagement across the school. Obviously, as time went on, we changed lots of the ways that we were delivering blended learning, and roughly by about June, our engagement levels went up to about 62%. Which was amazing, as this was new way of working, not just for us teachers, but for parents as well at home who were struggling with 3 or 4 children, having to deliver home learning as well as working themselves. So for school, we felt very proud that we managed to get up to 62% by June. Currently, just in January, when I looked at some of the trackers, it's gone through the roof, and we've hitting a phenomenal target, a range of about 88 to 91% for the whole of our school, and we've got 222 pupils in our school. So I think that is quite an achievement for our school to say that we've actually reached that target. In January, obviously, as the girls have previously said, the goalpost completely changed. Back in March, our aim was just to keep the children safe, which it still is now. But we also wanted to get our learners engaged and focused and ensuring we were transferring all that good practice that we deliver every day face-to-face to a blended learning approach. And I think this has definitely helped with the increased engagement that we are having from our pupils and parents. And when we've looked at the reasons why we think our engagement has increased, one of the main things for us is the communication and the relationships that we have with our pupils and our parents. Our school, the socio-economic climate around our school has completely changed within a year. Back in October 2019, when we were going into our inspection, our EFSM was sitting around 28%. And as Nairi said, at current day, we are now just under 50%. So in that short space of time, our free school meal children has nearly doubled, which has had an impact on us as a school as a whole. So it was important for us that we were constantly keeping the relationship that we have with those pupils every day that we see on the gate, when we welcoming the children in and when we dismissing them at home. It was vital that the relationship we had with those parents face to face was continued through our blended learning approach. So we ensured there were phone calls, emails, text messages, and we're very lucky on Dojo that we have a reciprocal messaging service where the parents are able to message us and we're able to chat with them, as some parents feel that's far more beneficial to them, and they feel confident speaking to us over a message rather than picking up the telephone. But we were offering all these different ways of communicating with the parents, and this certainly has had an effect on our engagement increase. With our learning support class, the engagement was quite different, as they needed to have a vital check-in to see their staff members every week. So back even in March, they had weekly live check-ins with their members of staff, as it was extremely important to them that they saw their staff member for them to know that their teacher was safe, as they had huge issues around not being in school. We also started tracking our pupils, and our tracking system has completely evolved for engagement from back in March. In March, it was myself and Nairi who were constantly pinging text messages back and forth to each other, phone calls, emails. I've done this group, you've done that group. And it was basically myself and Nairi who were tracking and ensuring that the children were engaged. We were tracking the vulnerable and the ALN pupils, the CLAR pupils, and this then evolved. Just, I'd say roughly about May, we decided that there needed to be some form of quicker way than speaking individually to the teachers every week to see who was engaging. So we developed a tracker, and the tracker allowed the staff to rag rate whether they had had any engagement just for that week off any pupils. And we added a box on the end for SLT. So myself, Nia, Sally, Nai, whoever had spoken to those children in any format, whether it had been messaging, phone call, then we knew those children had been spoken to. And we had quite a few children in hub, which Sally was leading and running the hub. So therefore she was able to fill in that box if those children had been seen. Obviously, as Sally said previously, October we saw our first case in Caradog. This led to isolation, and isolation after isolation after isolation. It went through Key Stage 2 and then it started hitting foundation phase. From this then, we changed the way that we delivered our blended learning approach. We offer children 3 daily activities, and we decided to change our tracker as we wanted to see if there was a trend and a pattern to what activities were being completed by our pupils, and what was the reason why maths was being completed more than language. Is there a reason why creative was being completed more than physical? So Nia, as her class had been off quite a few times, decided to change the tracker, and we managed to have a look. So we then set the tracker to become daily. Had we heard of the children daily? Had they completed their 3 tasks? Were they completing language but not completing maths? This allowed us then to look at the trend. Then I took over ensuring that I was tracking all the vulnerable and ALN children. Lots of them are accessing hub, which is easy, so I can highlight those green as I see them when they come into hub. Those children who were not accessing hub, it was vital that those children were having the weekly phone calls. So every week I make sure that I'm in contact with my vulnerable and ALN children. If I don't get an answer, some parents don't want to speak to me, they will message me through Dojo and say, thank you for the phone call, miss, all okay here. And that's all we need to know. Moving on, another reason why we feel that the engagement has increased, we completed parent and pupil voice survey. One of the strengths that came out of our inspection was how we valued the children pupil voice at Caradog, and it was something that came out really, really strong. And just because the children aren't here with us and we're not face-to-face learning, we wanted to show the children that their opinion was still completely and utterly valued to us, just as much as when they're in school. So I know Nia started this with her class in year 6, and the responses she had were extremely mature and very sensible, and they were little things that could be actually aired out quite easily. As Nia spoke about earlier, the way we complete our missions, where the children choose their own steps in their learning. some of them decided that maybe where we give them an ABC choice, just literacy or just maths, they wanted a choice of subject, so art, music, PE. So rather than just it being isolated to one subject, they then decided they wanted to have the third choice possibly being a mixture of subjects rather than isolated subject. So that was extremely useful to us to engage with the pupils and have their understanding and their feelings about how their blended learning was going. And this is another reason why engagement has increased. The parent survey has just been done recently, which I know it's giving Nairi a bit of a headache at the minute, but it is very, very positive. And some of the things that are coming out are as we expected. But through us as staff speaking with parents, there were obviously some issues, as again, were completely ironed out extremely quickly. Initially, lots of the issues were with devices. Parents, as I said earlier, our free school meals have rocketed, and unfortunately we're currently in a climate where financial opportunities for parents around here to gain employment is decreasing, and unfortunately some of our parents haven't got the wealth to go and buy devices for children. So obviously with the Welsh Government grants we were allowed to sort of help out those pupils who were digitally excluded, and we've given out quite a numerous amount of devices, and this has helped our families. Unbelievable. It's just made such a difference to some families. As Nia spoke about earlier, the parents were unaware of how to use our platforms. As Nia said, we trained up our Key Stage 2 children, so they knew the ins and outs, but unfortunately we didn't have that opportunity to do that with our parents. So Mr. Davis, who I'm sure is going to be snapped up by some company before long, he developed Loom videos, step-by-step tutorials for our parents, and it's been a great help. As you know, we're all learning. Technology is new to us all, and it's evolving constantly. So by having these tutorials, parents were able to sit down, watch, learn step by step, and then help and support their children for their progress of their learning. I've also taken phone calls numerously in school with some parents who say to me, I don't know what this dojo is, I can't do it, I don't know what to do. So I've actually had some of the parents into school through the hatch, I will add, with masks on 2 meters apart, where they have come with their devices, and I've shown them step by step, this is where the platform is, this is how you access it, this is how you actually upload to your child's dojo portfolio. When they've complete, make sure you tick the blue box. And this, literally, a parent came up, I think it was 10 o'clock one morning, by 1 o'clock in that afternoon, we had about 30 pieces of work that was backlogged, submitted. It's just having that communication, that relationship with the parents. They feel that they can admit, as they say, their faults, which is not a fault. It's how the world is changing. And it's worked for us, and it's helped us to increase our engagement. Another thing that came up on our parent questionnaire was Welsh. Which I'm going to pass you over now to Mrs. Strong, and she is going to chat to you and tell you about the issues that the parents had with Welsh and how we've overcome that barrier.
Hi, diolch Rhi, bore da pawb. I'm Kelly, I'm the Welsh subject lead in Caradog at the moment, Year 4 teacher and member of the LLC. So barriers to learning, children will always tell you, I hate Welsh, it's hard. That's what they say, it's hard. But even our best children will tell you the Welsh is hard. So obviously that's a real difficult barrier to overcome. And the parents were telling us the same thing. They haven't got the confidence, they haven't got the language patterns, they don't know where to start. So I started the first in March last year. I started tentatively on the kitchen table with me one side, and my husband, he's a governor, he was the other side, and he was filming me while I was like trying not to laugh at him, but we managed to get some patterns out for the children. But in the end, boy, have we upskilled. Myself, we've got together, got to grips with all the technology, the Loom, the audio clips, all of that, and it's really, really brought on the confidence for the Welsh. I can upload conversations that I'm speaking with my children. I can upload songs, I can upload all those sentence patterns, and they are delivered via brawddeg yr wythnos, which is differentiated for Key Stage 2 and Foundation phase each week. Brawddeg yr wythnos goes up, the children send the videos back. Recently, this half term, we've put a song up every week as well, a differentiated one for Foundation phase to Key Stage 2, because I dare you to teach Welsh without being able to sing, which has been a problem. So the technology of Loom and the live sessions has been amazing, because it's allowed us to sing, which is, you know, great in the Foundation phase. And ultimately, it gives us the opportunity to deliver the high quality modelling that we want. These children need these sentence patterns continuously. They're not having them on a daily basis at home. The parents are trying their best. But this gives them the opportunity to listen back, to practice every day, because they've got the recordings there. Our live sessions, we've recently incorporated Help Ahead into the live sessions. So when the live sessions are running, staff are delivering their Help Ahead. So you can see how the children are getting on. And then if they've got tasks linked to that, I know Nia did a task where she used their Help Ahead to introduce the task, and then the children had the vocabulary and the language patterns they needed to complete the written task later on in the week. We're moving on. We're hoping now with our Eisteddfod coming, fingers crossed Foundation phase will be back in. With Key Stage 2, if they're not back in, we're going to try a Cani Mawr, and we're going to try a mass teams of Key Stage 2 and see how we get on with the big sing. But yeah, it's really made a difference, and I haven't got to look at my husband making me laugh across the kitchen table anymore, because I can use the technology. Although my teenage girls think I need sectioning when I'm singing in Melin, top notch across the living room to myself. But yeah, it's really, and obviously we're tweeting to parents, communicating via the dojo, so they're seeing the Welsh written down as well. All the everyday patterns that we use are there, you know, Bore Dar if we're putting a tweet up, Diolch yn fawr if we're sending a message. And I'll be honest with you, if you're going for your Siarter Iaith Cymraeg Campus Award, you can tick off a load of the bronze targets by doing some of these just simple things that we've just found. And that's it for me. So I'm going to hand back to Rhian. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. One of the things I'm going to speak about now is something that I do feel really proud as a school that we are doing. As I'm the ALNCO cluster lead for St John's the Baptist and ACS cluster. And this is something that I've spoken to my cluster about, and they were all wowed. And actually, I spoke to most of the RCT ALNCOs about what I'm doing with interventions, and I've been inundated. So I'm glad I'm doing this webinar, because I might tick a few boxes and have less emails after today. As you all know, when we came back to school in September, things were very, very different. Our bubbles were run completely different, and we had to deliver interventions in a completely different way to how we had previously prior to COVID. At Caradog, we skilled up one TA to deliver literacy launchpad, one TA to deliver a maths intervention, one for speech link. This was no longer the case. We couldn't put those adults at risk by mixing the bubbles. Obviously, some children from year 2 were mixing with year 3 previously to have intervention, and obviously the way the bubbles were run and how strict we had to be with the restrictions, this was something that could not be done. So myself and Ivy got our heads together and we decided that we would use our accelerated learning grant, and we upskilled all our TAs and awarded them a level 3, regardless if they were level 1 or 2 previously. And the reason this was done is because most of our children, obviously due to lockdown, they'd slipped behind and they were falling backwards, and I think that's just the case in all school. The basic skills of these children were slipping, so we needed something that was going to boost these children and accelerate their learning whilst they were in school with us as much as we could. So we decided to link all the TA's performance management to an intervention, as we needed accountability, obviously, because we were using a grant. As with all grants, you have to have accountability, and we needed to have evaluated we have impact for money, and were there impact on these children's standards. Obviously then, as of January, we went back into lockdown, and this is something we felt we needed to continue. These children were doing so well. We trained all these TAs up who were no longer just delivering a language intervention. They were now having to deliver maths intervention. So they were delivering the 2 forms of intervention just for their class. And we needed to continue with this because obviously these children were the children that were identified that needed that extra support. So regardless whether they were having face-to-face learning or blended learning, they still needed to have their learning accelerated. So before Christmas, we were very lucky. RCT gave us planning days, and we spent that day delivering the TAs with the TAs, teaching them how to deliver their interventions online. It took all day, but it was something that has certainly worked in our school. The TA's confidence in using technology has gone through the roof, and it's something that I just feel so proud of them all for. It's something, lots of them, it's out of their comfort zone, but spending that time and empowering them, it's given them sort of their ownership, and they deliver in the interventions. And yes, you do have the odd phone call, can you just check I've done something right? And spending quality time with one TA in particular, who is a total technophobe, was absolutely so beaming yesterday when she put her work on herself. Taking that on board, it just makes you feel that this is a team effort. Yes, as teachers, we are delivering it, but it's something that comes naturally to us, and it's something that we do day in, day out. These TAs, it's been totally alien to them, and they've taken it on board, and they've really, they've reached for the stars in my eyes, and they've done a really good job, and it's having a positive impact on our standards. So when the children come back to school, they haven't actually missed that time off of intervention. It's something that's been constantly delivered to them by tutorials, practical activities, Loom, and they're delivering it twice a week, exactly as they would have it in school. But also we have TAs who are one-to-ones, and they've been given daily activities to their children who they support one-to-one, and the relationship that they've developed with the parents of these children has been absolutely phenomenal. As well as academic interventions, one of the interventions we run here is Thrive. And as a whole school, we deliver Wellbeing Wednesday. But all this has just happened over the last couple of weeks. As an SLT, we sat down and we just thought that some children were identified as needing that extra emotional support. The Wellbeing Wednesday just wasn't quite ticking that box for some of those children. So we decided to set up Thrive. And the TA who delivers Thrive when she was in school, she was more than willing to come in and deliver Thrive face to face, obviously within the restrictions, so the children were accessing the hub. And we said, yes, that's great, that's fine if you're more than willing to do that, but what about the children who aren't? So she's decided to deliver their activities exactly the same way as you would with maths intervention, literacy intervention. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult because you do need that one-to-one sort of engagement with the pupils, but she's trying, and she's giving them activities to make them think about things. And I think this is something as a school that we felt was really vital, as well as the academic progress. These children need the wellbeing support as well, because wellbeing is the critical enabler of learning. And research has shown that learners who are content, they're safe, they're happy, then their learning will click in and it'll become effective. So ultimately, for us, yes, academically is the goal. We want everyone to achieve their full potential and achieve. But first and foremost is the emotional well-being of our pupils. And this is at the heart of everything we do at Caradog. And without it, I genuinely think that we would have had no foundation to build on. And I think the engagement for us and all the barriers we've overcome is because we've literally put the well-being of our pupils, our parents and our staff at the heart of it all. So I'm going to pass you back to Miss Long, and she's going to sort of sum up everything that we've done.
Thank you, Ree. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, ladies, for sharing. You did a cracking job. I will wrap up really quickly. I'm conscious of time, but I'd just like to finish really by sharing one or two of our next steps, because, you know, as with everything, it's sort of, you know, continuous sort of refinement, and we have got, you know, still a way to go with what we want to sort of achieve. So thanks, Nia. Nia's popped some of them up on the screen here. We're absolutely definitely going to continue with sort of wellbeing underpinning everything. So we'll continue that through our blended learning approach, whether the children are at home or in school, as the girls have sort of spoken about. As we're all doing, we're sort of battling those daily challenges. That's the next step for us now with foundation phase returning, for instance, after half term. You know, every day's a school day, and the first thing we did when we realised that we'd been asked to provide this webinar was pop onto someone else's to see what it was all about and to see what we could pinch from then. So we joined one of the high schools webinars back in a week ago, and something we picked up from them is that we could be possibly using a greater range of tools, for instance, on Teams to better prepare our Year 6 learners there for their sort of future learning. So that's something that we're starting to think of. You know, continually sort of championing pupil voice, as Nia said there, and starting to look at the impact that the interventions are having as well. One of the next steps for us, as I'm sure you'll sort of relate to really, is the difficulty around assessment, in terms of how we sort of assess the work that's being sort of carried out at home, because there is that uncertainty of how much independence the pupils have sort of, you know, have had in completing that, and even if in fact some of it is even their own, or whether their parents have completed it. You know, we've had some surprising transformations, that's for sure, during this lockdown. You know, we seem to have a budding Dylan Thomas in Year 6 with his poetry skills, and a Picasso in Year 1, and I'm sure you can all relate to that with the odd piece of work that's sort of submitted. So that's an ongoing sort of challenge for us, and something that we need to get our heads around. Lastly then is looking at really and considering, and it was briefly sort of mentioned earlier, but the future classrooms of Caradog, we're not going to abandon all of these sort of skills that have been developed, and all of these digital resources that have been put together, and they'll be there now for us to continue to build on, and that will be part of our sort of teaching and learning, you know, in the future as well. But with lots to continue to think about really, you know, what remains absolutely clear and certain for us is that consistency is key, you know, along with that continued teamwork, which is sort of paramount, and that open communication and those sort of positive relationships, and we'll sort of take that forward. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm sorry that we've gone over on the time. You should try and be in a staff meeting or SLT meeting trying to round these lots up. They're definitely passionate about what we do, that's for sure. So sorry that we've gone over. We'd welcome any questions now if you have any, and thank you very much for joining us. Hope you found it useful.
Thank you so much, all of you. I was going to ask what opportunities you're taking forward, and then you've answered it, and I suspect that's what you've done throughout. Anything that I had on the tip of my tongue to ask, you'd already answered. But I did just want to, there's a couple of things that really, really hit me front and centre about that. And the first and foremost is what a team. You know, just by virtue of the fact you all presented, is every single person in your school making a massive difference, and that's a real credit to you. And a couple of comments came out in the chat about variations on a theme about how you've refined, how you've adapted, how you're constantly changing, and that's absolutely true. And what was lovely is that has remained throughout about the learners and about learning and teaching, with well-being as that core driver. So I've just had a lovely morning listening, and yeah, the comments in the chat seem to reflect that. I don't know if anyone did have any questions they wanted to put their hands up and ask, or if everyone's just the same as me and felt that anything they were going to ask did get answered, which was wonderful. Thank you. I'm just going to stop the recording. So if anyone did want to put their hands up, then please do feel free.